Hello, 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 hello. What is the relationship between psychedelics and enlightenment and awakening? Now, this video is a semi-response to Actualize.org. First of all, genius channel. I've learned a lot, tons out of that channel. Leo Gura, original. Super original. But there are some confusions about what he said about psychedelics and awakening and enlightenment. That if I don't clarify, it might lead some people down to the wrong rabbit hole. It could be dangerous. So, when I tried 5-MeO-DMT 3 years ago, that was the last time I tried it, I had a breakthrough of absolute infinity / emptiness / you can't describe it. 3 years later, that state is right here, right now. When I perceive the world, it's a 360 degrees, boundless, infinite hologram perceiving itself through one sense store. There's not even a sense store, quote unquote, God's zero sense store. And every single sensation, both inside and outside, there's no inside and outside, syncs up to itself. And it's been like that. It's locked in for 3 months now. Nothing has changed. Nothing. This is a state that isn't affected by any outer states of consciousness. Because the outer states of consciousness are the content within this empty context. And when every speck of solidity is dissolved into infinity, you can't get any more infinite than infinite. How many times do I have to tell you this? You can't get any more empty than empty or full. Okay? Like there's absolutely no distinction, zero distance or delay between mind, body, sensations, world, awareness, consciousness, source, time, space, whatever you want to call it. Everything is just one. Everything's vibrating together. If I have to give you a metaphor for this state, it would be like, quote unquote, God DJing itself. It's almost like you're on a stage and you're DJing, right? And everybody in the crowd was singing to your music, right? And that's how I feel like with every single sensation in the whole world, the whole universe. Everything is absolutely in harmony. It's so beautiful. It's so profound that it almost made my 5-MeO-DMT trip pale in comparison. I was reading a post by Leo Gura. When I said that enlightenment is the present moment and that there's a switch, he disagreed. He said that enlightenment is not some on and off switch, but it is. It is a switch. It is a switch, but it's not a switch. There are shifts that are gradual, but then after you hit a certain path, boom, there really is an on and off switch, and then you are perpetuated to the next dimension and on until finally, boom. So it's both a gradual process and a sudden process. And like I said before, the difference between being 99.9% awakened and be fully awake is quantum. That's why you see all these enlightened masters, almost every one of them will tell you their enlightenment story. Now here's an analogy that I'm going to use to put things into perspective. An orgasm. See, before an orgasm, you're going to have physiological buildups. Gradual, very gradual shifts. Then boom, you come. You'll be crazy to think that you have a half orgasm. Okay? You either come or you don't come. But that's not the perfect analogy because an orgasm is the peak experience. Again, enlightenment is not a peak experience. It's more like the sun. Once you get out of the caves and see the sun, it's always there. You can do fucked up shit under the sun. You can take psychedelics under the sun, but the sun is still there, shining. And when the field is awake, because every corner is connected throughout the whole universe, when one corner is awake, the whole field is awake. The whole field lights up. A person who hasn't attained an orgasm can never talk about, imagine, or feel what an orgasm is like. So if you're not 100%, even at 98%, anything that you want to say, imagine about enlightenment are speculations and theories and hearsays. One of the indicators that you're there already is that you stop searching. Buddha said what's done is done. If you still think that there's more to go, there's higher states of consciousness than the infinity, than present moment, then most likely you're not there yet. Okay? That doesn't mean that there's no more to go. But after that threshold, any explorations, any maturations, and developments are within the context of infinity. I'm going on the retreat, 10-day retreat in a week. This time with no goal, no expectation, complete blank slate. So excited, but a little scared too. You can still explore powers of the realms, cities, psychic, quote unquote, psychic abilities, more concentrations, become more compassionate. Because enlightenment is not some never-ending goal. On the awakening axis, there is an endpoint. Another thing that people misunderstand about enlightenment is that it has very little to do with mindfulness. Now, this is a little off topic, but I'm just going to stick it in there. Mindfulness implies that there's a person in here trying to be mindful of the world out there. But first of all, there is no mind to be mindful of. Second of all, there is no observer. There's no separate observer or watcher or perceiver in here that's trying to perceive the world out there. There's no difference between inside and outside for the infinite time. That's why I said the present moment, pre-awakening and post-awakening are vastly different. Before awakening, it's a person in here trying to be present of the moment now, but even time doesn't exist. Post-awakening, it's God being present of itself. Presence being present of itself is never not be present. And was never not present. Okay? And it's present from nowhere and everywhere. So you can't locate it. How you can't find a spot here and be like, I'm gonna be mindful in my head. There's no observer, there's no watcher. There was never a watcher, an observer, a witness. There's none there. The center. The witness is the same as the ego, it's the same as the self, it's the same as the observer. It's just some solidified sensations in your head. Due to conditioning, you name, oh, this is the self. Either with a small s or a capital S, or this is the observer, this is the witness. All that are just solidified sensations. Okay? And those solidified sensations are the dirt on your lens of perception, including the lens of perception, that's keeping you from seeing the full thing. So if you take psychedelics, when your lens of perception is still not cleansed through thousands of hours of meditation, then you're still going to have a trip, have a glimpse through the dirt on the lens of perception. Yeah, well, I don't even know what to say anymore. I think that's it. What else am I going to say? Oh, yes. Daniel Ingram said in the video that he's seen so many people tripping. He's seen his friends tripping a lot and meditate a lot. And throughout looking at thousands of cases, no one has ever gotten enlightened, at least not the full thing, quote unquote, full thing, through psychedelics. Maybe not even stream entry, the first level of awakening, which is only like 1% of the full thing. People cross the arising and passing away phase, which is the spiritual highs. And a lot of them think they're already there. But then they fall back into the dark night and over again cycle. And that's the kind of people that keeps going back to psychedelic trips. Because when they have an arising and passing away event, they have a spiritual high. And of course, psychedelics fades. Enlightenment doesn't fade, psychedelics fades. When psychedelics fade, they fall into a dark night sometimes. And then they have to do more psychedelics to push themselves up, without realizing that the content and the context are, even though ultimately they're the same, relatively, if you're not there yet, they're not the same. Meaning that you could easily get confused by the content, thinking that is the context. Imagine that you're watching one of those infinite zoom videos on YouTube. The motion, the looping motion, is gonna be the same no matter what visuals you throw on there, no matter what kind of mathematical equations you try to interpret it with. Those are just content. The looping, zooming motion stays the same. See, even that is not the 100% correct analogy. You know why? Because it's not even an experience. Enlightenment is not even an experience. It's the source that experiences arise through and from an S. Because when a sensation arises, it simultaneously vanishes. So everything is like a loop. And the starting point of a sensation is the same quote unquote non-space in time as the end. So nothing's happening, but everything's happening. It's so crazy, bro. And permanence at the deepest level is non-arising and non-passing. Enlightenment is right here. And if you ask somebody if they're enlightened, and if they have to think about it, most likely not there yet. Because it's the most obvious thing in the world. Anything that you can access through psychedelics, you can lock it and access through meditation. The difference is you can perceive it 24/7. You can live it. It's gonna be living embodied experience. And Daniel Ingram also confirmed that. He said when he was doing his Fire Casino retreat, he was finding himself in this DMT realm or this ayahuasca realm that he couldn't even get out of. I'm not putting down psychedelics. I'm not saying you should do one or the other. I'm just saying from my own personal experience and from the statistics that other people have collected, psychedelics doesn't lock in the glimpses into permanent shifts. And if, again, like I said before, if you can't lock it in and perceive infinity right here, right now, 24/7, what's the point? The reason why that is because when you meditate, I've meditated for about 5,000 to 7,000 hours in my lifetime. I don't even consider that long at all. Psychedelic trips are so short that it doesn't change if you want to look at it neurologically and say that this is a brain state. Let's just go to the scientific route for a moment for you materialists. Yeah, it doesn't change. It doesn't operate on the deeper and the deepest regions and layers and roots of your neurons. At the end of third path, I thought I was done. But then, boom, that 1.1%, I couldn't fathom or imagine what this would be like. And even if you take psychedelics, when you're 99%, you're not gonna get a glimpse of the full thing because you're gonna have an experience of enlightenment at 99% on psychedelics. That's a different order than locking enlightenment and abiding in it permanently through the natural mind, okay? Let's not even go to the people who are only maybe 1% or not even 1%, not even stream entry, taking psychedelics and had a glimpse of quote unquote God consciousness. You can't glimpse enlightenment because once you glimpse it, you're enlightened. Because enlightenment is not an experience that comes and goes. That's why Jim McKenna said you're either awake or you're not. Psychedelics can be its own branch of development. It's almost like shamanism. Steve Liugura would just be clear about the fact that he's now sort of like a psychonaut, like a Terence McKenna type. Whatever he's doing is perfectly fine. But if you mix psychedelics with awakening, even though there are going to be overlaps, the two fields of development could be quite different. It's very different towards the end. At the beginning, they convert a lot, they overlap more. But at the end, the two are, they diverge even more. Eckhart Tolle said that he tried LSD because all his students are like, oh, is this like LSD? And Eckhart Tolle wants to see what that's like. He never took LSD. So he took LSD. He's like, oh, yeah, the world is kind of breathing. There's some colors, some visuals. But then he said that it didn't really do much. And he said that he preferred his default moment-to-moment experience more. And I listened to a podcast with Sam Harris and Adyashanti 2 days ago. And Sam Harris is going on and off about his recent mushroom trip. He's like, I haven't taken mushroom in 25 years. It blew my mind. I wasn't even human. And Adyashanti was just like, he needs to really comment on it. And he said, I also took psychedelics recently because all my students are like raving about like mushrooms and LSDs. And I wanted to see what it's like, even though he's taken it before, but he hasn't taken it for like 50 years or something like that. And he took mushroom 5 grams, just like Sam Harris. And Adyashanti said, some body high, but perceptually, it didn't really do much. So that's interesting, right? Anyway, so psychedelics can be used to speed up awakening. But up to a certain point only. Once you cross that threshold, it's not going to be that much use. It's a matter of personal experience. And again, it's dangerous to mix up the two fields of development into just one thing. Because people are just going to be chasing their own tails. Enlightenment is not just about altered states of consciousness. It transcends all that. It transcends psychedelics. It transcends scriptures even. It transcends meditation. Psychedelics is also great for integration, quote unquote integration. But that's only if you're pre-enlightened. Because after enlightenment, there's nothing to integrate. Because the integration still presupposes separation. It still presupposes that there's a character here that wants to be integrated to the absolute. But the absolute and the relative are one. The God and the human are one. There's nothing to integrate. But at the same time, there is. After enlightenment, the character might do certain things and make certain changes in his life. That seems like integration from the outside perspective. But from my perspective right now, it doesn't feel like integration at all. It just feels like everything's happening by itself, on its own. Through the divine will, which also includes the human will. 直接嗨了，直接嗨了。So again, psychedelics has great tools on the path either to awakening, even though again, it won't lead to enlightenment. Or if your goal is just to be, a more creative person, if your goal is like psychotherapy even, just, human dream world character goal. Okay? Psychedelics is great. If you want to be more creative, it's great. But whatever psychedelics can give you is still an experience and it still belongs to the dream world. No, I think one of the reasons why psychedelics can lock glimpses into permanent shift is because psychedelics doesn't really give you cessations or nibbanas or fruitions, the fruit of the meditator. Fruitions only occur after hours and hours, months and years of training. It's an accumulation of all the fruits of your meditation into one big fruit, the capital F, okay? So you go through all the jhanas, then boom, ninth jhana, you disappear from the universe, completely disappear. And for some reason that we don't know yet. I would love to put my own brain in the fMRI and see what happened during the session. Now again, there are micro sessions, there are macro sessions, okay? Nowadays when I sit down and meditate, my last meditation session, I had like 10 sessions. And it was like, it feels like I got swallowed by God and spit it out. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, I was like, holy shit. Session for some reason resets and rewires the brain unlike any other states. I mean, it is the higher states of meditation, right? And the reason why psychedelics doesn't give you cessations, again, is because you don't have enough time to cultivate, to rewire your brain to get to the level where, boom, you can have a cessation after the accumulation of all the labors and hard work you put into sitting there staring at the wall.